go to this timestamp if you want to go straight to the edutation. Do you know these moments where you are watching YouTube and after a few hours you're trying to think back of what you've seen during your binge and you have no memory of it? I want to change that by combining meditation and education, because you will have a much easier time remembering something if you are relaxed and calm and focused. My meditation course has over 700 students and a 4.6 out of 5 stars, and I love teaching things and sharing knowledge. So let's combine these two into education and meditation combined. Today you will learn about the cause of poor attention skills. I'll be talking about a book called Scattered Minds: The Origins and Healing of Attention Deficit Disorder. It's by Gabor Maté, and I am going to make 3 videos out of this book. The first one will be about the cause, second one about the effect, and the third one about the healing. So take a comfortable and active position. Try not to lean your back against anything because that might make you sleepy. The first few minutes I'll be doing a guided meditation to get your mind into a focused and calm state. After that you will learn about the lessons from the book. It is best to listen with headphones. I hope you will remember, relax and enjoy. Welcome. You can start by closing your eyes and noticing where your attention is going without any effort. So you might notice that it's going to the sounds around you, or to the sensations in your body, or to the things that you did yesterday in your mind. And for this education, I want you to be curious. And what it means to be curious is to be open and not judging yourself too much because maybe you're having a hard time focusing, or you think you shouldn't be thinking, but everyone is thinking. So just observe, let your attention wander freely. You don't have to focus at all. Because the theme of this video is also attention. You're just going to become curious about what attention actually is, where it comes from, if you're in control of it or not, and when you're not, what is controlling it. So now you can slowly start to focus on your breathing, the small part under your nose and your nostrils where the air is touching your nose when you're inhaling. So you can just take a breath in and notice the fresh air, and take a breath out and try to notice the warm air going out of your nose. It's always easier to notice the breath going in than to notice the breath going out, because it's fresh. It's a stronger sensation. And maybe you notice that your mind already wandered off towards someplace else, and that's totally okay. And the moment you notice this, you're going to bring your mind and your attention back to your breath. You're going to keep doing this. And just be curious what will happen you won't notice the moment when it's slipping away. You will only notice the moment when you are becoming aware that it has slipped away. But never will you be aware of the moment when you're losing your focus. Because if you were, you weren't losing your focus. So let's become curious and see what it means to have a scattered mind. Maybe you will recognize some aspects like poor attention skills or very bad impulse control or hyperactivity. And one of the things that people with a scattered mind are often experiencing is a type of tuning out. The non-presence of the mind, like when you're having a conversation. Maybe you're experiencing it right now. That it's an unwilled tuning out. You're not choosing it. It just happens. And later we will discover where that reflex comes from. There are basically two types of attention: active and passive attention. An active attention is when you are fully engaged. It's when you are putting in a bit of effort and you're motivated. But for people with poor attention skills, it can be very difficult to get into this active attention. They need more motivation than the average person. And then there's passive attention. This is when your brain requires no effort, like watching television or playing games. It doesn't need to put any energy into it. You can do it for hours. And also the environment is of great importance, because if a certain person with certain DNA needs a certain environment, the result could be someone with poor attention skills. But in another environment, this would not be the case. And why is that? It has to do with the stresses that a child has experienced during their childhood. Often children with poor attention skills are very sensitive, and what one child might experience as normal, the other might experience as very stressful. As a young child, one of the most important needs is to feel connection to your primary caregiver and to receive attention. And if the child doesn't feel this connection, it becomes very stressful. So stressful that the only thing it can do is to tune out or disassociate. And receiving this type of connection can't be faked, because the child will pick up on this, whether the caregiver is attuned. It will also teach the child to focus, because emotions and focus are very closely linked. And when the child sees a caregiver and is interacting with a caregiver that gives the child positive emotions and feelings, the child has a reason to focus. Within a few seconds, the focus that was first all over the place is now focused on the caregiver. In the first few months, the communication between the caregiver and the child is unconscious and emotional. The child needs the caregiver to regulate the emotions of the child. And it will feel when the caregiver is attuned to the child. This cannot be faked. But what happens when the caregiver itself is tuned out? Maybe reading a book to its children, but in the background thinking about work. The child might ask something about the book, but the caregiver has no way of answering it. And the child will feel this. And this stress will also make the child tune out, because it has no way of escaping. And this is one of the theories of why ADD is not genetic, but it can be given on through generations. it has been shown that if children are abused, there is a much, much higher chance of ADD. And that is not because of that specific moment of abuse, but because they have grown up in a family where there was a constant stressful environment and no way to go but to tune out. But it also makes no sense to blame the adults when you realize that the seeds of a troubled childhood has been planted long before a person was born, in the childhood of their parents, as it stretches back far into the family history. Now you might have a better understanding of where attention comes from, as it was first trained during childhood, during the interaction with the caregiver, and the tuning out or the absence of your attention comes from a reflex from when a child was still young and experiencing stress. There was only one direction to go, and that was to tune out. So now, being a bit wiser and more relaxed, you can tune back in. Start noticing your senses, your nose, your breath, with a deeper understanding of where your focus comes from. If you feel ready, you can slowly open your eyes again and continue your day. Thanks for listening to this first edutation, an educational meditation.